Hi there, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself, Annie. You were born in Sweden?
Yes, so I was born in Sweden. I moved to London when I was 17 years old because I finished high school, started college, always a bit of a free spirit. So when I found that college was not what I wanted, or I wasn't sure what I wanted, I thought, I don't want to waste my time. You get one life only, so I want to live it well. So after 3 weeks or 2 weeks, I kind of said to the teacher, I'm not going to come back. And then I was trying to think of what to do with my life. I wanted to do something interesting and spontaneous. And I wanted to go to America. I wanted to move to Los Angeles. And I thought, I can go there and be an au pair. But when I looked into it, you had to be 21 and you had to have a driver's license. And I was 17 and didn't have a driver's license, and I had zero patience. So I thought England will have me. And that's how I ended up in London on my own as a 17-year-old.
And were your parents not shocked?
Probably not. I mean, they'd known me from the beginning. So I think I was living with my dad at the time, and he kind of just went, yeah, okay. I think my mum tried to talk me out of it, but her older sister, had moved to England to be an au pair when she was like 19, and she's now 80. She never left England. She's still here. And I think it made my mum feel safer knowing that her sister was living not so far away from London, and if something happened, that I could reach out to them. I also think my mum knew that she wasn't going to be able to stop me. So.
Okay, yeah. So walk me through. So what happened? So Annie is 17 years old.
She is.
She arrives in London. Was it London?
Yes, London.
Did you go?
Mill Hill.
Did you go and live with your aunt or?
No. At one point I did, but not at the beginning. So I started out as an au pair, a really, really good family in Clapham. So I completed a year. And then because I'm 50, so this was before Sweden joined the European Union, so I had to go back home after a year. 12 months later, Sweden joined, and actually the day they signed the deal, I handed in notice on my apartment to come back to London, because Sweden felt very, very small after having spent a year in London as a teenager.
So walk me through, what did you love about London?
Everything. So much going on. You don't have to be bored ever if you don't want to. There's theatres, there's concerts, there's green spaces, museums, there's people, there's shops, there's things going on 24/7 if you are that way inclined. So when I went back to Malmo, which is tiny in comparison, I found myself being bored. And I love the buzz.
But so everyone who knows you also knows that you do a lot of traveling around the world. So what took you from London out into the world then?
When I moved back to London, I went interrailing around Europe. So I worked as a waitress. And it meant that I could quit my job at any time, but because I had the experience, I was trained at this one particular place, I could keep on going back. So I started early, still in my teens. I did interrail around Europe, just curiosity, Greek island hopping. Went to Africa. I actually was in a relationship with a guy from South Africa, and I ended up moving there, and I lived in Johannesburg for 3.5 years. And then you've experienced things, cultures, and just the freedom of traveling. I love it. So it started there and kind of like continued.
So a lot of us have kind of traveled when we were young. How come you kind of chose to just keep on going, and you do it so frequently as well?
I do now. I did have a break. I pretended to be a responsible adult for a few years. I worked in the city at a financial company, a clearinghouse, as a graphic designer. So I had my 9 to 5 desk job. I did travel during my holidays. I went far away, long haul. I did an around the world trip, but of course you have, when you have a 9 to 5, there's a limited number of days that you can take off. Then I was made redundant and I started freelancing, which means that now I'm in control of my own hours. I have to be able to support myself. So I'm an expert budget hunter. Like I do cheap flights, cheap accommodation. There's ways and means. So now I try to travel as much as I can. I want to see the world. I have a thirst for culture, freedom, experience.
And why do you want to see the world?
Because you only have one life, and day-to-day living becomes monotonous and boring. I never wanted children, so there's nothing kind of like tying me to staying in one place. I have my home, I have my job, but it's freelance and going out to experience different cultures. I don't want to wait until I retire, because my dad got cancer, and he was under treatment for a little while, and it got better, but then he had pain in his back. I went over to Sweden to celebrate his 65th birthday with him, which is the day that he then officially retired. He couldn't enjoy the celebration because he had such terrible back pain, and being a stubborn man, he hadn't gone to the doctor about it, but we literally, me and my sister, took him to the hospital the very next day, and his cancer had come back and it was terminal, so we drove him to the hospital and he never left. So a few weeks later he was gone, and he'd always had this dream of, he wanted to go to Japan and he wanted to go to Australia, and he never got to do it. And it's really sad, so I've decided that if I want to do something, and I love challenging myself as well, because there's things that I can't do, but I challenged myself to do Kilimanjaro last year. I did it, I completed it. I'm doing Everest Base Camp later on this year. I've booked it, I'm doing it. I don't mind challenging myself, because I want to have a big life. I don't want to wait and wait and wait and then find that it never happens. So I'd rather try something and fail than just not do it. Yeah.
Okay, so Annie, tell me a little bit about how you got into breathwork.
So it was by accident, really, because I'd never heard about it. I'd heard about Wim Hof, and I had done a bit of Wim Hof as part of treatment for back pain, believe it or not. But the sort of breath work that I do now, which is really transformative, I came into by accident. A friend of mine who I wanted to see invited me to a session, and because I wanted to see her, I went along to the breath work, not knowing at all what to expect. When she first said, "Oh, I'm going to breath work," I thought, what? Like, I know how to breathe. Why do I need to go to a session? And I think she didn't tell me much about it, knowing that everybody has a very, very different experience and has a different journey when they do the breath work. So I went along, not knowing what was going to happen, but I thought, I trust my friend, I'm going to go along with an open heart. I did the session and I cried, and while I was crying, so it's a release, I was literally lying there thinking, why am I crying? I'm not sad. So it was just this stored energy in my body coming to the forefront and being processed, coming out. So I don't know where it came from, and I didn't actually care at the time either, because it was just beautiful. I walked out of this session feeling lighter, and like really just euphoric and full of joy.
And I guess like the breath work is very good for you to get those emotions out and process it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So even if you're not aware of the things that you are suppressing, your body knows. Everything that you don't let out, every time you are driving and someone cuts you up on the road and you're like, yeah, now you want to throw your toys out the pram sometimes because if you're feeling tense, you suppress, or you want to give someone the finger and you don't, or you want to shout at your children, or you want to shout at a co-worker, or someone has hurt you and you feel like you want to cry, but where you are at that moment in time, you might feel like I would look like a fool. So you suppress. And in breath work, you release all of this stored energy. It comes to the forefront. So it's like a reset button. If you want to try a breath work, so I would say be curious. You don't know what's going to happen, but sometimes you can have a big release that you weren't expecting if you go along with an open mind and an open heart. Sometimes also nothing comes to the forefront, but whatever happens, you will probably leave there feeling euphoric and lighter.
Do you ever feel any resistance?
I have seen a resistance in participants where the breath starts to take control and they get a little bit frightened and they ease off because they don't want to surrender that control. If you struggle with control in your everyday life, where you have a lot of balls in the air that you are juggling and you always know where everything is, you have you run a tight ship, work, children, all of these things, you want to stay in control. So that's often the resistance, where they don't want to let go and they're trying to think rather than feel. But once you allow yourself to stop thinking and just start feeling, that's when the magic happens.
So when you've had this emotional release in the session,
yeah.
Does it never scare you?
It hasn't scared me. It has frightened, I think, just one participant of mine where it was such a big emotional release. So I can't go into too much detail because this is private. Whatever happens in the sessions remains private. But the person had a big personal loss almost immediately before coming to the session. So it was a very, very, very physical release where the person kind of like went into almost like where they stopped breathing altogether and went so tense and got a big fright. So I'm always walking around supervising, and I went over to the person and kind of just grabbed on to them to assure them that they were safe, that everything was going to be okay, and just say, breathe, just go back to your natural breath, because the tension that they felt with the release made them hold their breath. So, and then as soon as the natural breathing started again, the floodgates of emotion came out, and it was a really, really big release. And the person said to me after was like, thank you for rescuing me, and then contacted me a few hours later to say that because of what had happened that triggered the release, they thought that the breath work would either be the best or the worst idea they ever had, and they felt that it was actually the best the best thing that could have happened, because the tension and the sadness that had been carried around for months and months and months had been released. And then my personal experience of a breath work, because things happen, so you can see visions, colors, feelings, emotions. You can have visits from your ancestors and stuff. For me, it was my dad. So he passed away years ago now, but in a breathwork session where I was lying there and I could feel this light behind me, and like in my mind's eye, I looked up and there was an angel standing over me and kind of like just smiling down on me. And then the angel's face turned into my dad's face. And he was just like smiling down on me. And it just made me feel like, because you don't know what happens when someone leaves, like, you know, I don't necessarily believe in angels and all of this stuff, but that was the vision that came to me. And it made me feel like wherever my dad's energy is, that he's okay. And it made me feel okay. So yeah, that was my most powerful personal experience of breathwork. Yeah.